and me on the pod. We just pray this is a good pod, that you speak through us, that this is a chill vibe, and that whoever's listening feels heard, seen, and loved. We just pray that you use us as vessels and you go ahead and pour into them. Thank you for everything. Thank you for Wildrose, Alexa, Springfield, all the vibes in your name. Amen. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Communal Cash. It's the beautiful, it's the gorgeous, the one, the only Hannah Reuter.
Stop, I'm blushing.
As you should, queen. What up, gang? It's me and my girl, Hannah Reuter, on the pod. Hannah, how you feeling?
I'm feeling so good. This is our third time recording together.
Yes.
Three-peat, baby.
And then I did your pod, and then we done two live shows.
If we include that, we're like at number 7
If you include our voice memos, we're like
111 probably.
Yes.
But this is my third appearance on Keeping with Cash. I'm so excited to be here. I do want to note that every time I've been on your podcast, I've had a different hair color.
And I love that because it's kind of like a whole different guest.
Like a whole different guest, yeah.
Yes, as you guys know on Keeping with Cash, I'm just like navigating life. But Hannah is pretty much my like on rotation routine guest because I don't know, I just like love talking to Hannah, and I feel like we go through different seasons and we have deep chats, and I don't know, it's my podcast, so my rules, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But honestly, Hannah and I think we got coffee, which we need to get coffee again already too.
We do.
But we're coming off the podcast party that was just a couple weeks ago, which also thank you guys so much for coming. Honestly, I'm so incredibly grateful for Classics Yard, The Riff. All of them are my like biggest fans. I love them. We sold like $500 worth of merch, which is amazing. So we got a little profit there. Yeah. Yes, sir. Also, the merch is available if you want that Christian tee. We had around 70 people there, which was also incredible because there was snow and all kinds of things. And it was just beautiful. Like, I don't know about you, which I know you weren't at the first one ever, but you were at the second one, which is probably cooler anyways. But I feel like for me, like, because it wasn't about me, like this year I was like, this is about God. It just hit different for me. Like the people that were like, wow, this was amazing. It wasn't about me. So it was like what God did in this environment was amazing and powerful. And I don't know, I'm still like processing all of it because it was just kind of like a dream that in my head, I'm like, okay, God's telling me to do this. I'm just going to do it. You don't really know how it's going to turn out. Right. You're just like trying to obey. But then like seeing all, like you pray for people, me pray for people, my parents, my sisters, my friends. And you know, you're like, okay, we're going to have a worship night. Okay, I should probably back up.
You're good.
So we gotta back up. I'm so sorry.
Back up to Friday. It was amazing. Start from the get-go. Walk us through the whole podcast. Well,
I want you to like hop in here too because Hannah and
I didn't enter the scene until later that night. So
okay, period. Well, I had talked to Hannah and I said it at the party, like I had big plans to make it almost like a Christian SNL night. Like I was going to have these guests. We're going to do a big game. Like
variety
all this
show.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of have like a Christian rapper. And then none of it worked out. Like literally none of it worked out. And I was just believing God, like, okay, at Upper Room, you told me you wanted this merch. You told me you wanted a worship team. You told me all these things. Okay, I believe you and you got to provide it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have that many musical friends, I feel like, in town. I have some, but I just don't.
I can't help you out there.
All my plugs are like in Green Bay for that. You know what I'm saying?
I got no rhythm, no skill.
Shout out Green Bay. Okay. But so anyways, shout out to my queen, Daphne and Christy, my friend at the gym. We were talking in the hot tub and I was like, bro, please do the worship team. And she was like, no. My daughter. I said, okay.
And they showed up.
Amazing. They came. We were able to bless them for their missions trip, and this beautiful team of worshipers that had never actually played together.
Which I didn't know until the end of it because they did an amazing set for like an hour, and then afterwards you announced they had never played together before.
No,
I was completely blown away because they were so cohesive and so seamless, and it just seemed like they had the chemistry up there. It was amazing. Thank
you so much, Queen. They had one rehearsal, and a lot of them went to the same church, and then a few of them didn't. So it's just, you just don't know like the chemistry and then vibing into like a worship and that kind of thing. But the whole night was just amazing. We had our live show, went through some analytics in the year, new merch and networking stuff. And then we went into a time of worship for like an hour and prayer. And that was a big thing for me where I was like, okay, I feel like we need to pray for people. Also, why would we not? Like my parents, you, like all my friends that are big leaders, like why would we not? We'll just stand up there. And in my head, I was like, probably nobody will come up there for prayer. Right. And it was insane that all of us were booked and busy. Like
it was amazing.
We all had someone, like I prayed over 2 people. Like I don't even know how many each person.
It was so many. And I said whenever we were speaking during the live show component of it that if anyone chose to come up and pray with me, I was like, I will cry, just so you know.
Amen.
Full transparency. You come up to me, you share anything with me, sad, happy, a praise, whatever it is, I'm going to cry with you. Just so you know, I might cry instead of you. You might not even cry, but
Yes,
I will. And I thought that would maybe deter people, which wasn't my intention. But then people still came up and I got to pray with so many. And like driving home, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe what happened. It was just so special, so sweet. Yeah. And I feel like I've had their stories and their prayers just like echoing in my head ever since your podcast party. So I've just like made an effort to continue to pray for them. And I wish I could like seek out each of those people and be like, hey, just so you know.
Yeah.
So if you're listening,
slide their DM, Hannah. Slide their DM.
I know, but also it's such a personal thing. Like to come to someone like during a moment of worship, then I also want to respect people's anonymity and like their privacy in a way, because if that was a time that they felt just called to like be vulnerable and speak, but they really don't want to talk about it outside of that, then I just wanted to like, if my DMs are always open to pray for with anybody, but those people specifically, I just feel like I've been carrying a little piece of that with me ever since your
No, it's so special. And I think for me, like, since obviously I invited everybody, that I kind of, for the most part, had a relationship with most people that were there. And when I got to, and I kind of know most people's stories, obviously, if everyone's there is like kind of my friend that I invited. And so just seeing like who went to go pray with who for like assuming what they're praying for, it was just crazy kind of the lineup, like the people that I prayed for. Just have so many like leadership qualities, and so getting to pray over them and speak life in them, and you know, scenarios that I went through, and then seeing my sister pray over people and my other friends, and kind of like knowing what their seasons are, and just for me being like, wow, it's insane the alignment that God did, that it's like none of that is coincidence. You know, just like even my sister flew in and she had just gotten out of a season and she got to pray over women that were kind of in that same season. And I'm just like, that's like, what if she didn't fly in for this, you know, just absolutely crazy. And so it was just such a blessing for me to have like my best friends all next to me. Like we're all praying for other people. Like that's what the kingdom's about, right?
Yeah,
like
it was amazing.
That's where Jesus would be if he was, you know, physically on earth with us right now. And it was a amazing night, and it wasn't about us. And I think that was something that people were like, we need more of this. I'm like, yes, because we need more like ministry and times for God in community, in the creative space, in doing that.
It was just such a nice change of pace, because I feel like so often you show up and you still want to be like on your A game, and you want to be like have your you be fitted up and be ready to you take your Instagram pictures and talk about what projects you're working on, and you still want to be on. And to have that moment outside of a church setting where everyone truly felt like stripped down and vulnerable, and like some people were crying, some people had their hands up, people had their eyes closed, like everyone was worshiping in their own way, but everyone was like sharing in that moment of connection together. So it was so special, even though it was definitely different than last year, but they were both obviously amazing, but this year was just so personal and it felt so intimate, just to have everyone there kind of not having a front on. Yeah.
And they're totally different vibes too. I mean, last year it's more so like, not that it was necessarily a bad thing, but I was like, well, this is my goals and like my dreams. Which you should have been proud of.
You've done so much work.
Well, thanks, girl. You too, girl. Podcasters unite. We have a fan club.
Yeah,
you can join if you want. There isn't initiations.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. But it was just very different. And I was saying in my podcast too, like I always feel like, not that I feel like it, but the enemy always tried to attack me like the week of the pod. And there were there have been a lot of attacks that I've told Hannah about, and just a lot of things going on where I'm like, God, I need you. But the day of the pod, you know, I honestly was like more behind than previous years, but I was like, this is going to be fine. Like, because it's not about like, if something doesn't go right, it's not that big of a deal. Like the night is not about the podcast. Like it's about bringing people together and sharing testimonies and worshiping and building community. Like, okay, we went on a merch, the food isn't good, you know, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. Everything was actually perfect though. So,
yep, it did go off without a hitch. It was amazing.
It didn't matter, but it was perfect.
But if it hadn't been perfect, we would have we would have gotten through it. But no, it was amazing.
And I'm so grateful for Hannah, because I'm always like, hey girl, hop on this live show with me, which we can get into a little bit of, you know, what we shared. Obviously there is a live stream on YouTube, but I just appreciate you so much for, you know, stepping in and like being in the gap and being there with me, because there's not a lot of people that would just hop on a stage and
I'm so like, well, I'm like, you sure you want me to do it? I'll go and talk about whatever, but I'm like, are you sure? Because it's your moment. And last year I know was your podcast party, and this year was more of a worship, like a testimonial, bringing people to Jesus. But either way, I was like, you sure you want me to do it?
Girl,
Okay.
She's always my number one on the roster.
Well, I appreciate it. But it was so much fun. And
so like, what was your take on the whole thing?
I just thought it was so special. I think that it was obviously up in the air how people respond to it because people are so personal with their faith. And some people don't have that same draw to be so outgoing with it. Like a lot of people keep it very close to their heart and don't want to be public about it. And that's their prerogative. But I was nervous that people would be like, I'm nervous to share. I'm nervous to be open. And like, whether that's with prayer
same.
Or
that's how I felt.
But I think people responded really well. And it was the perfect mix of like, it was upbeat and it was happy and everyone was definitely celebratory towards you. But at the same time, people came like with open minds and open hearts. And then the transition to worship was pretty seamless as well. So I thought it was so much fun, like start to finish, so much fun.
And I say it too, like in the live show or just in general. And I feel like God's put a lot of, like, I think we're both very talented and we can make a lot of friends really easily, like in the airport.
At least in my head.
Yeah. We'll be in the airport. In my head, I'm like, Mom, we have 5 people coming home for Thanksgiving with us. Just really quick with it. Yeah. And it's like, what do you do with that skill? You know what I'm saying? Well, you do sales or social media, but you start a podcast.
Check.
But I feel like for us, a lot of it is just meeting people where they're at, you know? I mean, inviting people to church is so huge, but a lot of times people do have church hurt or they're busy or there's trauma. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, where can we partner with businesses or people where we can almost like bring God, worship, church, community to the public and kind of like
outside of the 4 walls of the church, like bring it to them wherever they happen to be. And there's even as someone who grew up in church, and I still think there's some anxiety and some like fear of being an outcast or that you're, too eclectic or you're too mainstream or you're too this or whatever it is, or your own inner dialogue. So you think that disqualifies you from really belonging in the church.
Everything you said is so technological and smart. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to follow you, but I'm like,
thank you.
So keep going.
But it's true. I think that there, even like I said, I grew up in church and there are some moments that I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to be here. Like, I don't know if I can speak on this. I don't know if this. And then it crosses my mind, if I feel this way as somebody who like has been raised in Sunday school, I've gone to VBS every year. I like learned the whole Bible book song, like all these things. If that's how I still feel, then how must everyone else feel that hasn't grown up exposed to these things? And I've had good experiences in church, like everyone else. I've had some that are not so great, but it's the human aspect that makes it not so great. It's not the religion. It's not Jesus. So I think anytime that you can pull back that curtain and show people that the church can come to you and that the church is the body of Christ. It's the people and the love that exists there. It's not the rules and like how many Bible verses can you quote and how holy are you? It's
the religion aspect of it.
It's the relationship with other followers of Jesus and then with Jesus himself.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And even connected on a sermon about church hurt, because it's like everyone goes through it, like you said. I mean, even you can go years of being like, well, I love God, but I still can't stand that one pastor from that one time, blah, blah, blah. And it's and everyone's story is different. Everyone's pain is different. But it's kind of like one of those things where whether it's like broken from a relationship with a guy or a girl, being like, man, I need to work through this or like go to therapy because I don't want the next person, or whatever it is. It's like that's between you and God, you know?
And that's the one thing I wish I could convey to people is that if someone's hurt you in the name of church or in the name of Jesus, then that's a human hurt. It's not a holy hurt. It's not, God didn't tell them to do that thing to you. And if you've been betrayed or your confidence or your trust or anything has been compromised by someone in a church setting or something like that, it's just, that's not from God and that's not how it's supposed to be. But anytime there's humans involved, there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be pain and there's going to be sin, and that's what makes it so complicated to try and bring people to Jesus without knowing that what their background has consisted of. So I don't know. I think that you did a great job at bringing it to people in a way that felt completely unassuming. It was not scary to go to the podcast party. It was so fun just to hang out with you and all your friends and everything else.
With you.
Thank you. The vendors are amazing. Obviously,
love brand.
I got the jacket here. The new I couldn't decide which one to get. This one was calling my name.
So good. It looks so good. I'm so glad you got that one.
I'm so glad I got it too. It's not. I don't usually wear color. I don't know. Ever since I had dyed my hair black, though, which is new since the last time I was on here.
You'll pick your color. You know what I'm saying?
I could.
You'll pick the colors.
I used to only wear black though, and then now that I have black hair, I'm like, I don't know if I can do it as much. Like it's too monochromatic. I have to have something else, but I can't decide what color it should be, so I'm going with all of them.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
All the colors.
Hannah, as you guys know, we do like theme nights when we do pods together. It was kind of like 90s March Madness vibe. So I have like the jersey on. I have a Bulls jersey, even though I'm definitely a Hornets fan right now. So.
I love it. No, you're like, do you have any basketball jerseys? And I was like, no.
I'm like, I can bring you one. Hannah's like, don't.
That's my new jacket. Actually,
no, I'm like, period. I don't care.
I love it so much. There's one.
So we're giving color because we're at 417. We're not 417. We're in the 417. We are at Wildrose. Shout out Alexa. Like this place is the cutest, girly swirly Airbnb located here in Springfield. So if you have Hannah had her birthday here last year, and it was awesome. So if you have like a party event, big just girls night, like book this place up. Whether you're coming
amazing.
in town to visit it, sorority, whatever your journey is, like this place
yeah.
is so awesome, especially if you love doing content, taking pictures.
No, it was so much fun. I was like such a tame child in high school, and I was like, I never went to a house party, so I kind of want to have a house party for my
There you go.
for my
Slay.
24th birthday. So all the girls came here, and like we all dressed up in cute little outfits, and we had cake, and we just kind of hung out for the whole
Yeah,
night.
it was
so
so
much
fun. It was so fun.
I feel like it was less risque than I had expected because I'm like, we're all grown, mature, adult women. It wasn't scandalous. It wasn't crazy. But in my head, I was like,
Speak for yourself, Hannah. I'm going to a trampoline park next week.
oh. But you know what I mean? I was like, oh, a house party. It'll be so much fun. And I was like, wait, we all will be in bed by 11.
11. It's so real.
It was girls only. It was like the most fun, like 13 going on 30
Yes.
sleepover. It was so much fun. I had the best time, and those pictures are still like my favorite. Your zebra
That
dress
was
was
so
amazing.
fun.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
shout out to my
your
friend
party's
Madeline
here.
who gave it to me for free. No, your whole everything looked amazing. Everything was amazing. So for the vibe tonight is we're 15 minutes already in. Slay, go us. The vibe tonight, I honestly called Hannah and was like, hey, can we just pod? But we're both kind of just exhausted, and I think there's been like so much in life, but I also do feel like we have so much to bring, and God has put things on our heart where it's honestly just like a girl chat. I mean, obviously if you're a guy listening, you are welcome here too, and we are going to speak to you too a little bit as well, but just kind of like this is like our FaceTime call, and you're just going to be sitting right here with us. It's not, I mean, our notes, I have like 2 words on here, and Hannah and I like, we're just going to cook. So
Talk. Yeah.
we're just going to talk. But actually, one thing I will say is the trampoline park. My coworkers and I got in a big debate because I was like, is it weird for 25-year-old women and her friends to go to a trampoline park and just bounce around? They were like, that's kind of weird.
No, I haven't tried to buy a trampoline.
Man, I just haven't like, played dodgeball and bounced around in a while. So.
No, I would love
like
that.
Michael Scott with it. But
I would love. I've been trying to convince Austin.
You're invited.
No, literally, I want to go. I've been trying to convince him to get a trampoline for the longest time, and he's like, he's the mature adult in our household, and he's like, do you know how much money we put into our lawn? Which is a typical husband thing to say.
Yeah.
He's like,
and how the insurance goes up.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, if we have a trampoline, it's gonna kill the grass where the trampoline is, and we just got the grass looking nice. And I was like, here's the thing, I don't care about the grass. I care about my ability to jump up and down and listen to music and just have the time of my life. Like I never got to do as a child because my parents did the same thing. So
wow,
you see
we
this,
really
like,
have the same origin story.
Yeah, it's like the beef with the lawn. I don't care about the grass. No one's gonna see it but me. So what's the point? Yeah. I could
That's
go
good.
on.
That's good.
I could go on.
Which brings us to my point is, have you ever listened to older podcasts? I always talked about, I know it's been like, we're like year 3, so I think I must have been, whatever, but I used to be like, okay, I graduated college, so I'm a freshman adult now, and I'm a sophomore adult, junior adult, and now it's like we're senior adults, which is crazy that it's been, like 4 years. It'll be 4 years, since graduating college, which is like actually insane.
I know.
But I mean, not to be weird, but like I feel 25. I don't know how you feel, but like for me, I definitely feel more mature. Like there were there's like so many times that I'll be like with my family or like things I would have like said or done that I just am like, Morgan, just keep your mouth shut, okay?
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
so
wow,
hard.
I'm so mature now. Like
I honestly, I feel like I ricochet back and forth. I have sometimes where I'm like, oh, because I'm 26, I'm so much older than you.
she's so much
I'm
like
so much
she
older.
is so much
I'm
wiser than
wise,
me.
mature.
Yeah, I'm not
very-
even like remotely.
I'm a season. You'll understand when you're older.
She
sweetie.
uses like really big words.
Yes, I do. That's just innate. I don't know where that came from actually, I know where it came from. I didn't really have any friends growing up, so I read a lot. So that's why I have.
Slay queen.
So I have a nice vocabulary, but I have friends now, which is nice. So
Yes,
I'm learning,
and she still reads a lot.
I'm
so.
learning fewer words these days because
Okay.
I actually have friends like Morgan. But I feel like
And Morgan brings a brain rot. So.
life is all about balance, okay? I feel like there are times that I feel so mature. I'm like, I've evolved so much. I'm responding to things more, calmly. I'm thinking through things. I'm thinking before I speak, which is a new development for me.
I know. It's so
And
different for us.
there are other times where there's like a life situation and I'm like, there's no way I'm old enough to deal with this. And now I'm going on like 3.5 years of marriage. And I sometimes have a moment where I'm like, my husband, I'm like, who has a husband? It can't be me. There's no way that I have a husband. And my husband's about to turn 31, like in 2 weeks.
King.
I know. And I cry every year on his birthday because
So bad.
no, I am not really a crier. I'm kind of back to like quarterly cries. Which is, I'm really not crying that often these days, which is different. But I cry every year on his birthday because I'm like, it's another year that I've already lived with you. And like, I can't get that year back. And I just love you so much. And then I get really emo about everything. But I don't really know where I was going with that. The whole
No,
point,
I love it though.
But then I was saying my husband's turning 31. I'm like, there's no way. I live with a 31-year-old man.
You did the same thing last year. You did the same thing last year.
I did. It like blows my mind because in my head I'm like 16 years old. So then the thought of me living with a 31-year-old man,
Yeah.
I'm married to him. That's crazy.
And there's no judgment either. My coworkers, we were like talking about it the other day because we're talking about the trampoline park. Honestly, I mean, you can go ahead and ask your coworkers because it opens this like can of worms. Yeah. And one of the guys was like, man, one thing about me is that I don't play games unless it's ping pong at Classics Yard. Classics Yard is Springfield's #1 social sport and game center. It's located in the back of Classic Rock Coffee Company and next door to the Riff. Coffee, sports, music, what more could you want? Located at 1900 West Sunset Street in Springfield, Missouri. Be sure to check them out, play some games, and reserve your event today. Visit www.classicsyard.com. 25. I had 2 kids and I was going through a divorce. And I'm sitting here and like, this is probably the wrong response, but I was like, bro, how could you afford that, man? Because I'm like, with the rent prices right now, I can't even afford like...
Can't afford to get divorced.
A vacation, bro. How are you affording all this, you know? And it's just cracking me up how like everyone has different journeys. And I mean, let's be real, like having kids or certain things you go through in life just makes you mature real quick. And maybe I just haven't had to go through those.
No, hey, it's okay. It's okay. If it takes trauma to mature, then I hope you get to stay. I hope you get to stay immature for as long as possible. We don't need any more character development. I think I'm done for a while. I see all those posts all the time.
I have enough tattoos for the trauma I've endured.
Yeah. I've changed my hair color 4 times in a year. So I've had enough character development, enough growth. I think I'm done. Yeah, write me out for this season. I don't need any more storylines.
Yes.
But the trampoline park sounds like fun.
The trampoline park. Yeah. But basically what we're getting to is, you know, we're growing, we're evolving. And Hannah and I am so blessed to, you know, just have her in my life. And this episode's talking about a little bit about just how much change has occurred last year. And we kind of want to speak a lot to women. I don't know how the trampoline park translates to women, but
we're all on a journey and there's ups and downs.
We're bouncing through life.
Yeah.
But I think
sometimes you break your leg and that's okay. It's totally fine. Did you hear my stomach growl?
No, I totally didn't. But
I promised I had dinner.
No, I had chips and guac for dinner.
It sounded so loud. I thought everyone could hear it, so maybe not.
No, you're good. But I agree with you. Like even Valentine's Day, we went out for like apps and that kind of thing, and I was like, okay, guys. And my friend's like, let's go dancing. And I said, actually, I'm gonna go to bed. So I was like, I want to watch my show and go to bed.
And that's okay. So, that's it.
I'm like, wow, we were 25. Like we literally still go out and do stuff at like 11 p.m. And now I'm like, whew.
I know. It's bad. Well, even for us, like I have never been a huge Valentine's Day girl. I like Galentine's to dress up and like do stuff with my friends, but for dates and everything, I'm like, we could just stay home. I really don't care. But Austin,
I love Valentine's Day.
Austin's such a romantic, which is so sweet. So he always has these plans, and I think for a long time he thought I was lying because he thought I was testing him.
Right.
I'm like, you don't have to buy me flowers. Like you get me flowers all the time. I don't need them on Valentine's Day. They're like way more expensive. Like it doesn't matter. And then he's always like, okay. And then every year,
like
flowers
3
show up.
bouquets.
Yeah, every year there's a reservation, but this year we were smart about it. And this year we went to dinner the week before Valentine's Day, like the Thursday prior, and we had this like nice dinner. No one was in the restaurant. It was so calm. And then for Valentine's Day, we just stayed in and we watched Fever Pitch, which is a nice little rom-com from 2004.
Love.
And it was so good. He made me grilled cheese, and it was honestly way better. And I was like, is this getting older, or is this how it's supposed to be? And if this is getting older, I'm not mad about it.
Right. I think it's a balance of both. I mean, I think there's like natural seasons in life where you just do certain things and you start, but it's great though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's awesome.
We're in a reclusive season, all of us, it sounds like.
I love it. Yeah, honestly. And so it's cool. So I think, you know, Hannah and I just talking about, I mean, it's been a crazy time. A year ago, like she said, I had the podcast party and then I had a crazy job change and went through a lot. I said on the live show, basically ran out of money. People blessed me. God took care of me. A miracle had happened. I don't always give all the details. Feel free to message me and we can chat about it. But it's just like God had showed up for me in so many ways. And this year I had prophesied over me at church camp by the speaker. And he was like, look, man, your year is going to be a roller coaster. And that it had. I had said at the live show, like, I had so many amazing moments, like went to Mexico. But then there were hard things like getting hacked and like losing a few people in my life that I was, you know, that are now in heaven and that kind of thing. And just like you have these really, really hard moments that you just do not understand and you just cling to God. But then you also have these just amazing moments and you change as a person. Like I feel like I changed so much this year and it's just so beautiful. And even in the live show, I talked about how Springfield's never my first choice, but God has honestly just given me so many things here and he's using me here. And maybe it's not about my desires right now. Like maybe it's about, hey, like Springfield needs a you. Springfield needs someone to help, you know, bridge the gap. And I have such great friends and a great church and a great job. And so it's like, you know what? And a great loft. Like there's just so many blessings that I always have to tell myself, like, stop ruining your current like season of everything you've prayed for by having a bad attitude about what you don't have, and like enjoy it. Like being on vacation, you know what I'm saying? Like being like, okay, I'm in paradise, but I'm focused about my Wi-Fi or like what's going to happen this. Like just sit there and soak it in. Yeah. You know? And I think that's what I tell myself is I'm like, you have great friends. Like you're single. You don't have to like worry about anything. You know, I'm like, just soak it in. And so that's my perspective, because I feel like it's so hard. It's hard. Our natural flesh is like, well, I want this and I want to go here and I want to do this. But it's just kind of like, I'm like, shut up and to myself. Okay. Yeah. To myself. Not to other people.
Me to me, inner dialogue.
Me to me, because I had a sinus infection and I slapped myself on the forehead and I have a bruise.
Okay, girl, you can tell.
Thanks, girl.
No, I think everything you said is 100% true. And I have the same thoughts where I've had a really rough like past couple years just with like things that have happened for Austin and I, like in our journey to try and have a family, and things that have happened with losing people that, you know, you don't expect to happen so soon, and just so many ups and downs that I didn't anticipate happening. And if I look back on the year as far as like events that happened, I'm like, wow, that was a really bad year. This was horrible. But if I look back on my memories, it's not colored by all the bad things that happened. Like I remember the things that I did with my friends and like the places that Austin I got to go and getting close with my family and my brother moving back home and all these things. So I don't remember the year based on the bad things that happened. So I try and remind myself not to focus on those moments while I'm living them, because the nostalgia will still focus on all the good things. I'm still going to remember all the happy moments and the memories that I got to make and all the like the colorful days of my year. But whenever I'm living it, it's so easy to focus on like the gray and the prayers that aren't answered and the things that God hasn't done yet, and just thinking like, well, what is he going to do? And then it is beautiful when you look back, because now I can recognize in myself like all the ways that I've gotten stronger and my faith has grown in depth, and I feel like I'm more resilient and my marriage is
super
stronger.
Resilient. Yeah.
Thank you. but I feel like there are definitely tangible things that I can point to in myself and be like, this is a new version of me that I haven't gotten to meet before, because she had to evolve through all these things. And if I hadn't gone through all those things, then I wouldn't have her. And it's like a really like meta thing to think about, like, oh, do I love myself enough to be grateful for all the trauma that I had to go through to become her?
Dude,
but I feel like I do.
We're so similar, bro, because I was talking to someone the other day about, I think it was about the upper room stuff, which we'll talk about in a second, but just like all these kinds of heartbreaks. And even I'd ask myself, like, because God had told me something and I was like, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I always ask myself, like, what if I would have listened, you know? But also it's like, I love this current version of myself, and I had to go through all of that to get here. So it's like, I don't regret, you know, but it's a weird, what you said, it's a weird meta mindset, because you're like, I don't know.
You're like, well, I love her, but she had to go through a lot to get here. So wouldn't I have rather been like less evolved and less wise and less strong, but be happy? But I feel like also, if I can think in that way and think like, well, I love who I became through those things. Like I love that I was able to, you know, find joy in these dark times and just become stronger and kind of like let go of my need to control the future and to predict everything. If I can acknowledge ways that I've improved through these hard circumstances, then why do I think that this is the end point? Why don't I think that there's another version of me a year from now that I could love even more, that has continually improved more through God's grace and through, you know, communing with him through all the hard stuff? Then,
that's good, Hannah.
Then why don't I like let go of this? Like, okay, well, now I'm done growing. I'm ready for my prayer to be answered. Yeah. So if things happen to get delayed for another year, if I have another difficult season, then why can't I be optimistic about who I can become through that as well?
Right. Which is kind of going into our topic for tonight, which I told Hannah a little bit of, honestly talking about faith, because talking about how sometimes us as women, we have faith in God. We just don't, like, how did I word it earlier? I said something that like we have faith and know that God has a plan. We just don't have enough faith to believe it's good. Yes. And that's how I feel like in myself, because when I was at Upper Room, I was praying with God and I wanted healing, because I have had some rough experiences with men, and I was like, you know what? I know there's good men out there. I know that God has a plan for my life, whatever that looks like. I don't want to not open myself up to men because of this trauma, whatever. And so, like, the whole situation, I asked God, and like there was a lot of healing, and I just visualized Jesus like with me in every single one of those traumatic moments in that season. And there was a lot of healing there where he was like, Morgan, I was always with you. you just never looked for me, but I was with you in all of that. And I think that's because for me, I was like, well, you abandoned me. And so I had trauma there, and God like freed me from that. There was a lot of forgiveness there at the altar. It was amazing. It was awesome. And I'm just so happy I get to walk in that freedom. But I think it's natural for us, like for me, you know, the enemy or whoever could be like, well, you've been single for forever. Springfield doesn't have your type, like this and this and this, blah, 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 blah. You're stuck here, whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't accept that. Like, I don't rebuke that because God is bigger. If God wants me to meet the right person tomorrow, it will happen tomorrow. Yeah. And like, I rebuke these lies and labels that people want to put on me or whatever the enemy does. I'm like, God has the best plan for me and I love him. And I've met great Christian men, and yeah, like I'm just gonna lock in and do what he has for me now. But that is hard to be there. You know, you really have to let God be the verses and like what God says about you be your compass and not your emotions. And like, we are human. I mean, Hannah and I are human. Like every other night.
Yourself,
I mean,
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
She's, you know, half Avenger, like
don't blow my cover,
half
girl.
Stainless steel, like.
Sorry, I derailed the series.
No, I love it. No, I love it. But I'm just basically saying, like, you know, I feel like God gives us the strength to go on the podcast and talk about these things. But like, what real life is me calling Hannah or Eva or Vika and being like, yo, my feelings are hurt. I hate being single right now. I'm lonely, like blah, 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 blah. I'm here. Like, that's real life. I mean, even last week, I was just going through like this heavy temptation on stuff. And I'm like, God, you are stronger than what I'm going through. Yeah. Like, I'm believing it right now. I'm about to make some bad choices. And so I'm like, just please give me the strength to not. And I had friends that were like, put your phone away, take a shower, go to bed. The next day, it's fine. Yeah, you know, absolutely. But that's what I'm talking about. And
no, it's so true. And I was actually reading about this exact thing during my Bible study this morning, and I wish I could remember the verse, but I cannot recall it for the life of me. But somehow I'm still finding verses all the time that I have never read before. And today I was having like this wrestling time with God, just like, listen, I trust you, but just why? Like, I know we grow through these difficult things, and like we know that by being tested, our faith grows stronger, and we become more Christ-like, and through suffering. Like I can recall these Bible verses, I know them, but I don't always feel them. So I'm like, why, if you can do anything, why do I have to suffer to get closer to you? Why do I have to go through these things to become more Christ-like? So just like wrestling with him. And usually whenever I do Bible study, I'll journal first, and then I'll do my devotional, just because I feel like that it always gives me a chance to like hear God versus just me talking all the time. So I was doing my devotional and looking through the Bible verses, and one of them said that even this foolish plan that you say God has is better than any plan that man can come up with. And even God's weakest moment is 10 times stronger than our most powerful moment. So it was something that was really humbling, because it was one of those times when you read the Bible and I was like, oh, that was like right to me. Like, you actually responded in real time to what I was saying. And it was like, even the most foolish quote plan that God comes up with is still 10,000 times better than anything that I could come up with. So if I'm saying like, well, God, why haven't you answered my prayer? Why haven't you done what I wanted to do? And his plan, it's like I'm reducing it and reducing his power and vision to only what I can conceive and come up with in my life. So same thing with you. If you're like, why haven't you answered this yet? Why haven't you, allowed me to meet this good Christian man? Why haven't you healed my trauma in these areas? Why haven't you done this? Then it's like saying, well, this is what I wanted you to do and what I expect you to do. It's like saying that this is all God's capable of. And because he hasn't done this means that he won't do anything, because you haven't seen it in this like little realm that you've created. Because I do the same thing.
It's always like that picture too, out of that meme of like what we see, like the little iceberg, and then it's like what God sees, the huge mountain. And even just in my life, like Hannah and I had our coffee date, and there's a lot of things that I'm praying about that are pretty major. And my perspective is like, well, this was my dream, and this is my desires, and this is like what I see for my life, and this is my Pinterest board, and Hannah's like, well, what if God's trying to bless you with this, but you're holding on so tightly? And that was like one thing that at Upper Room or wherever I go, I feel like the big word for me has been like, I always hold on to my life like this, and you can't receive if your arms aren't open. And so the same thing with like, you don't receive if you don't ask. Like, if you are like, I'm asking for something, and so I'm praying about a lot of stuff, because I'm like, you know what, God, I don't know. I don't know, but what I know is like, you've given me so much favor. Like, just, I don't know how you feel, but like, man, the past 2 months, like, because I feel like I've stepped out in obedience more than I ever have in my whole life. And for me, that's like a whole different vibe where I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna trust you. But I also feel like God has just blessed me in ways that I'm like, wow, I would have never thought to do this, or like, I can't even believe this is my life right now. And And so I don't know. And like exactly what Hannah said, if I don't know God's plan, but he's such a good God. And even in my reading, which I'm not even going to lie, like I've slacked, bro. I'm so bad, bro. I need to lock in because I'll like click the Bible when I'm half asleep and I'll just like hear certain things and I wake up and I'm like, I have no idea.
You're like, wait, come again?
But I need to lock in. But I'm like in reading Psalms. And there was one book of the Bible where it's just like, I think it's like every other word, they're like, praise be to God. He got us so good. He's a loving God. Yes. He's so good. Like they talk about how good God is. They repeat it like so many times in the Bible. And that's just wild. Like, I think like that's just worship, like walking around and being like, man, God, you are so good that you are this and this, like saying it out loud. And it's just, those are like spiritual affirmations. Yeah, you know absolutely. What I'm saying?
And I think it's true. There's so many things that I could say based on what you said because everything was right. And I think that that's one thing that I learned from our church sermon specifically this weekend is that, which we talked about before we started recording, that there's no reason that you can't be confused and be grappling with something and like wrestling with God at the same time worshiping and praising him and acknowledging that he's good and acknowledging that he has higher ways and he has authority that we could never know or never understand. And I feel like I've experienced a lot of that in my own life this year because there are times that I'm so angry at God. I'm like, why? I cannot understand, like, for the life of me, why this would happen, why you would do this, why you're allowing these things to continually transpire, like, in my life. But at the same time, I love you and I know that you're good and you've always provided for me before and you've always been there and I trust that you'll do it again, and like continuing to show up and open my journal and open my Bible and put the work in, even though I might be angry, even though I might be confused. And then eventually, you know, your heart softens and you start to see his plan or you see that different things are revealed to you. And it truly is something that I can't convey with words, because if someone would have said that to me whenever I was in my darkest times, I would have been like, yeah, okay, I'm sure it will all come around. I'm sure you're right. It'll just magically be okay. Because the truth is, nothing has really changed circumstantially in my life, but things have changed in me. So,
I was going to say, you have changed so much. And I love it. And I love
I say thank you. I hope it's the best.
No, you are. I mean, Hannah, like, you're so amazing. You already are amazing, but it's like the way, I mean, last time Hannah and I got coffee, which I feel like I'm not a crier, but also I am. Like, I don't understand.
I go through phases. I'm not in a crying phase right now.
Yeah. Because I used to cry like every day. And honestly, I don't cry much, but I do cry in worship now all the time. And I do cry now more so in movies, which is like something. Yeah. Also on airplanes. I don't care.
Yeah. It's for the dramatics. I get it. I
don't know why. I'm always like, I just love my mom and dad. Like,
no, I'm like Ariana. Like, I've got no tears left to cry.
Yeah. But I'm not a public crier, to be honest. No, I'm just not really like, I don't know. I just don't feel like I cry like that all the time. But Hannah and I got coffee and I literally started crying in the coffee shop just because Hannah was speaking so much life over me.
It was my fault.
No, I love it.
It wasn't me. It was the Lord. I have no idea what I said.
It was so powerful though. And I'm just like so proud of you. And I just love that not only are you like, you know, letting God cook in you in so many ways, but like you were just such a leader, you know, that I'm like, so I just really appreciated that.
No, you texted me afterwards. You're like, that was so good. You spoke so much life. And I was like, I don't think that was me, girl. I don't know what I said. I have no idea. Can you tell me? Actually, because I probably want to write it down. But I'll tell you after. I think it really was like God was using me as a vessel to speak to you, because there were some things that I said that I was like, dang. I was like, I kind of need to hear
Chapo credit.
I was like, I need to hear that myself a little bit. So it was a really great conversation on both ends. I just hope that something that I said hopefully helped you in some way.
It was so good. And I think what you said too about like you're going to be angry at seasons with God, and when it's like my relationship with God, we keep it really real. Like and that's what people that don't have, maybe they're not a Christian, maybe they don't believe in God, whatever the situation is, people see things as just like, well, I don't follow that religion, right? But I'm like, this is a relationship. Like God loves me, you know, and I love him. Like it's whatever. We're not going to get into like all of that though. But like it's a relationship where we keep it real. Like I'll go on walks and I'll be like, the biggest thing is the Bible, like you are going to go through seasons. There's nowhere that says you're not going to go through seasons or hardships. We're in a fallen world. But what God wants is to like invite me in. Yeah. Even last week when I was like, man, I am just struggling. I am doing this. I felt like he was like, invite me in. Yeah. Like, let me do this with you. Like, let me be there with you. And so, I think that's what's just so powerful, because we look at the Bible and we look at people like Abraham or, what's the one guy that lost everything in his family?
It's a lot of them.
No, I'm so bad. I'm not like Jonah. No, I'm so bad. But what was the one guy that like everything burned down in his whole family? We talked about him a lot. I felt like you and me.
Was it
that guy?
Was it was it Job?
Yes, Job.
Okay.
Look at you, Hannah. Come on. Confidence queen.
Wow.
Yeah, Job.
I called on the Lord there for a second. I was like, give me the answer, please.
But even Daniel, like in the lion's den, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, we have like.
Familiar with the VeggieTales rendition of that story.
It's like, this man was in a lion's den trapped with lions. Yeah. I think I can face my like human bullies. Like,
no, it's true. And I think honestly, one of the best gifts that you can get from God is the ability to be joyful in the darkest times. Because if you can do that, then nothing can shake you. Nothing can be taken away from you. And I mean, obviously everything can be taken away from you, but if you're able to find happiness just through God, like completely independently of your circumstances, then there's nothing that you should be afraid of. Because if your joy comes from your job or from your relationship or from, you know, your physical fitness or your clothes or like whatever you're drawing joy from, all that can go away.
Yeah.
And even though it's impossible not to get some joy from those things, it has to be rooted in God. And that's something that I am so bad at, because I'm like, well, my joy does come from my house and my husband and my parents.
But those are natural things. I mean, you know.
And it always will, you know, but I'm trying so hard to make sure that I'm at least making steps towards rooting my joy in God, because that is the one thing that can't be taken away. Yeah. So whenever you have that, it's like, well, then I really couldn't be shaken, because, you know, your house is built on the rock.
Foundation. Yeah. No, that's so good. And it's hard. Like, obviously the new merch I had mentioned, I was at Upper Room and I felt like the Lord told me, and it's to live as Christ, to die as gain. And I talked a lot about, you know, people that have lost their lives for Christ. I mean, he sent his son to die on the cross for our sins, but like missionaries that obey the call and then they get murdered in certain countries, you know? And it's like, if we're going to heaven, if we're going to be with God in eternity, then to live as Christ, to die is gain. We're not saying just like go out and die, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't fear death then, because I know where I'm going and I know who I'm going to be there with. And it is like, it's not a natural necessary thing where I'm like, I still, like you said, I'm like, I love my parents. I want to get married someday. Like, I love my friends. I love my life. And the Bible says those things are good, like community and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, my number one relationship is with God. Because if I was to lose all of you guys, you know, my life it'd feel like it's over. Yeah. But also I'm like, I still have everything because I have God, and that's truly like all that I need, you know? So that's kind of where the merch came from. And it's not something that is necessarily a natural thing, but it's something that we are all kind of pursuing in our own way. And
well, it's something you can't really understand until you have that relationship, because if I would have heard that, you know, in places in my life where I wasn't as close to God personally, where I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to church, but the relationship wasn't as strong, I would have been like, yeah, you have everything, you have God.
Right.
Very cool. And I would have thought that you just were saying that, like, I would have thought it was a Christianism that people just say, like, you know, God has a plan, everything's great. So now that I've been really diving deep and like investing in my relationship with God and listening and not just talking to God and requesting things, then now I understand it really is something that can bring you so much peace and so much fulfillment. But I never would have been able to comprehend that had I not been diving deep, like tunneling into my faith. So I think that if you're someone who's listening to it and you're like, yeah, Morgan, I'm sure that you do have everything, but you're thinking, well, I don't want to lose my family, I don't want to lose my job, I don't want to lose my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my career, like I don't want to lose any of those things, and there's no way that God can fulfill that place in my heart. I think that the only way to find out is to do the work yourself and to see, because if you do the work and God doesn't speak to you, I would be surprised, but you know, you lost nothing. But if you don't do the work and you never find that relationship, you're missing out on eternity.
No, that's huge. And I think it's so interesting too, because we both kind of grew up in church and faith, and we both had our own journeys. And for me, like I always talk about too, how when I was in high school, like I was called to evangelism and stuff like that. And then, you know, you go on this journey, and especially like going, you know, partying and having wrong relationship with men and like all these things. I remember those feelings of like what the world advertises is like, oh, just go do this. It means nothing. It's blah, 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 blah. And at the time, it's like fun for 5 seconds. And then I would always feel so empty and being like, man, I just want somebody to like care about me. And it's not even that I don't care. It's like so viscerally, like bro, you did not have to do all of that, bro. But... And I know, like I said, the podcast party, like some people are probably like, bro, Morgan always talks about God. It's honestly annoying, like whatever. And that's the thing is, I say respectfully, like I don't really care, because like when I spend time with God, I'm like, this is just like amazing. Like this is what I want to do. I just love worship. I just love the Holy Spirit. Like I just love it. And so honestly, it's like, if you feel that way, that's okay. It's okay. Respect you if you want to unsubscribe. But also it's like, this is not going to change, because just between me and God, this is what I love, and we're going to continue that, you know? But so Hannah and I had all these plans, and I know we're like already cooking. But we can just, this is deep, and I like this deep vibe. And so let's just talk about the women part real quick, and then maybe get into a little bit of advice. But I've had so many conversations recently, I think, just about, especially me too, of getting healing from past experiences, and also really raising the standard for myself when it comes to dating. It's honestly easier because Springfield is not the most dateable city for me. And I have met a lot of awesome Christian guys and that kind of thing, but understanding your boundaries and coming from something that you were treated poorly in and really raising the standard for yourself is hard.
Yeah.
You know yourself, you know your temptations, you know your boundaries. But a lot of women will be like, man, you're so confident. Like, you would never get cheated on, this and this. I'm like, first of all, be so for real. Like, okay, everybody's got to pass. And if a man wants to cheat, he's going to cheat. Like, okay.
It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with him.
Literally. But it also is, okay, women, like, and men too, just evaluate where you're at and what kind of relationship you want, what kind of future you want, and raise the standard. I think what happens is, like I said earlier, like, we trust God's plan. We just don't think his plan's always good. You know, it's like we get in the season of, I'm so tired of waiting, I'll go settle for what this is.
Yeah, exactly.
And then down the line, it just creates so many more issues.
No, I agree. And I think that, sorry. I'm shuffling so
Something's going on with the mics tonight, y'all. Not that the mics are amazing. The stands are going through. They need some
I think this one's my fault.
TLC.
I've been shuffling a lot. I just have a hard time sitting still.
No, you're good.
If you watch the time lapse this episode, you'll see you sitting nice and poised and perfectly.
No.
And you can see me in like 18,000 different positions, but that's okay.
It's because my tripod has real issues that I literally cannot move it.
You're cramping up over there.
No, I can't put my back. Okay.
Basically, I know that now I'm just like an old married lady, and that's just horrendous to say. But in all honesty, but I feel like I couldn't speak to this until I had been in such a healthy relationship, because I didn't see how drastic the disparity is in who I am now versus who I was when I was allowing myself to be treated less than stellar, like less than even normal, less like, this is the baseline. Like, I was being treated down here. The bar was subterranean. So I feel like I thought that I was confident. I thought that I loved myself and cared about myself. But until I became the version of me that was loved by someone who affirmed me and truly knew how to communicate with me and reassured me and lifted me up and always had my back and like showed up when he said he was going to show up, until I became loved like that, I never realized what a difference it can make in your life and in your heart. And now that I know that, I cannot stress enough how sad I am that I ever even considered settling for less, because it's not even just the person that you end up with, it's the person that you become by being loved by that person.
That's
so
good.
if you settle for someone less than who God has for you, you are settling for becoming less than who God wants you to be, because he has someone
good.
Yeah. But truly, I think that I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I hadn't married my husband, because he has been strong in all the ways that I'm weak, and he has been someone that I know God brought to me at the time of my life that I needed him, and he's made me more confident, he's made me more outspoken, he's made me more self-assured, he's made me more aggressive and ambitious. Like, he's taken all these aspects of myself that were growing, and he's helped me just completely blow the roof off of that. Like, he's made me into a person that I would never have gotten to become if I hadn't been loved the right way. And there's a million different things. I don't want to put my husband on a pedestal, even though I think he's amazing. But I think that if you, as Morgan, choose to settle for someone out of loneliness, or out of convenience, or out of whatever else, then you truly are sacrificing the future that God has for you, because the partner that he has in mind for you and for all these listeners is someone that's so divinely crafted for you, that's designed to be weak where you're strong, that's designed to lead you in ways that you might fall short or be unsure. Then you're also designed to be for them, And I do say, I don't believe in soulmates. I believe that God brings people together and can bless a union that obviously puts him first. But I just cannot say enough about how much I've been impacted by being in a healthy, happy, God-honoring marriage. And even through the hard times, it's even more apparent, because I can't imagine going through this with someone who's any less than my true best friend. So don't settle.
That's a word. And 100%. I mean, like we said, like, God has a plan for you, and invite God into those conversations. God and I had a pretty big conversation when I was in Dallas, and it's a whole thing. Like, especially like me being in sales and social media, like, have you ever taken the DISC assessment, like personality test?
No.
I'm a mechanic take it.
Wait, what?
I feel like I know what you are. Like,
what results is it?
So D is like dominant, I is influencing,
no,
S is stable, and C is like conscientious, I think.
What do you think I am?
I think you are either like an IS or IC.
Interesting.
I think you're an IC, and I'm an ID. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think you're influencing, but I think that you also like are conscientious, like kind of like a thinker, like also you kind of are just very like aware and a little bit like very
always
deep thinker,
watching.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think you're kind of like that. With me, I'm like influencing, but then also I'm like, I need this done now.
No, I think
the chapel is full. You have to go to the overflow room. Thanks, guy.
I feel like my observation nature came in again when I had no friends as a child. So I learned to keep an eye out.
No, but that's like great qualities, you know?
Well, thank you.
But I think, you know, for me, if it comes to business, I'm like, if I want it, I just go get it, you know. But in the relationship, especially like being the female and like wanting a pursuer, it's not the right approach always, you know. Or like I've been able, you know, I'm very bold and I don't really care, so I'll be like, hey, I think you should probably ask for my number right now. Like,
yeah.
And then guys will do that, but then it doesn't like last very long, just because, and maybe some that works on some guys, but like, you know, it wasn't their idea. Like, it wasn't their, I don't know. Well,
and I don't think it has to be big and romantic to necessarily be sent by God. Like, it doesn't have to be someone that just completely like falls into your lap in the most perfect way. Like, I met my husband through Instagram, so it's not like it was this big sweeping gesture. He slid into my DMs, and I feel like I knew. But also, that could have just been me knowing that he was cute. So I want to say like I knew as soon as I saw him, but I don't know that I knew that he was the one for me as soon as I saw him. But I knew that I liked him.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be this like grandiose thing that shows that it's from God. But
right.
I just think that to settle for someone who is any less than what God has for you is to completely like settle for a subpar version of your life. And not to say that God can't work good through all of our decisions, because obviously He can. But if you know what you deserve, even if you have like an inkling that you deserve better, then you should wait for better. Yeah.
And it is hard, but also if you are like, you have to ask yourself like, what is the meaning of marriage for you then? You know, like, is it something rooted under God, or is it something that you just want to have that partnership? You know, what is that? And for me, like, I invited God into that struggle, and I was like, hey, at Upper Room, I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? You know, what do you want me to do? And I felt like the Lord was like, don't do anything right now. I said, okay. And so it honestly, for me, it made me more confident to have that direction, because I'm like, I can look, but I'm not doing anything. Yes. So if a guy wants to ask me to get coffee or whatever, blah, 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 right. You can do that. Actually, I have a funny story though. Because we're going to we can break the ice a little bit, but I know we're already at like 15 minutes, Hannah. We're so bad. Okay. We're going to wrap up here soon, because, bedtimes, but I went to an event yesterday and it was very entrepreneurial,
right,
and so I was around a lot of like deep personality guys, which is refreshing, because I'm not really always around like always dominant guys that are not afraid of rejection, and so this guy came up to me and he was like, I just walked by to put my mic down and I pick it back up, and he was like, hey, are we gonna keep playing eye tag, or are you gonna talk to me? And I was like, I like spat my water out of my mouth, but honestly, I know it's probably kind of cringe, but honestly, I thought it was kind of funny. Like,
it's better than saying nothing and then messaging you afterwards and being like, hey, I saw you tonight.
I know, because what's crazy is at first I was like, who is this guy? Are you even like my age? Blah, blah, blah. But he kept being persistent, and then he ended up like following me, and so I was like, well, I'll follow you back, you know, and that kind of thing. And so, I mean, it's not deep or anything like that. I mean, it's still crazy, and it's probably not. But it just made me laugh, because I don't know. I think sometimes guys are so afraid to talk to women or put themselves out there. But it's like, if you make somebody laugh, like the chances of them being like, ha, you know what? You're actually kind of cool. Like,
1,000%. I feel like everyone dogs on guys that will come up and hit on you, but no one will dog on a guy that makes you laugh. I mean, people don't like to be disrespectful.
You can do both at the same time.
Yeah, you can do both at the same time. You're about to get married. But I feel like, honestly, it doesn't have to be something that's like super suave, super smooth. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Just make a girl laugh. Like, just be funny. Just be normal. And that's really all it takes, because girls get nervous too. And I think people forget that, because girls are like pack animals. Like, they travel in groups, and it's really hard to break into the pack. But I don't know. I think if you can just be yourself and be non-threatening, that's a big deal. Girls don't like to feel threatened. So I can't speak to how it feels to be a guy, because I haven't ever had to like approach a woman, but I feel like it would be pretty nerve-wracking. So
yeah, I think I'm so bad, because if I was to teach a class, I'm just kidding.
Why not?
I revoke that. We can edit that later. If I was to give any advice to a guy, and this is, obviously lock in your faith because you want to be a man of God, but two other things, I'd be like, look, if you can figure out a way to smell good and also to be confident, whether that's like just walk into a room and pretend like you are the most attractive, the wealthiest, the funniest guy in there, and just kind of have that confidence, and not in like a gross, huge, cocky way, but like if you can just exude that confidence, people notice.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, like everything else can come with it. But if you can if you can do those two things where someone's like, wow, okay, this and this and this.
Just confidence and self-assuredness. That's really all it takes. It's not any more complicated than that.
That's right.
Super simple. Because you just want someone who's not going to feel like they're always, there's like the loudest person in the room.
Right.
They're always just like demanding the attention. Like when that's a man, it sometimes feels a little bit not threatening in a physical like danger way. Yeah. But like, I just don't know about all that. Maybe that's a personal thing for me, but all you have to do is be confident and genuinely be yourself, because I think that everyone, male or female, can kind of pick up on when it's not genuine. But yeah, you should teach that class. I think
you too. I mean, I'm like a girly swirly that's in a male dominant industry, in the welding industry, and also having your own business. And we both have podcasts. And so we're used to having to like shoot our shot for like interviews or a seat at the table. And it's crazy that we're 25 and 26, and it's, being able to be in these industries or whatever it is and be like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Like,
sorry,
respect
my husband
me.
Called me.
No, you're good.
There's only one person that rings through, and it's my husband. So sorry.
Love. But you know what I'm saying? Like, to be at our ages and be in, male fields or having your own business and be successful, like whatever it is, if you're confident and you believe in yourself, people are like, okay, I'll give you a chance.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's just so true for dating too.
Yeah. I nothing else to add. No notes.
No notes. Okay. So I know we're wrapping up here soon. We are already so long, but Hannah and I have so much fun.
I know.
Okay, so recap for women and men: raise your standards. Men, be confident. Women, also
settle.
be confident.
Don't
settle. Do not settle.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Don't settle.
Okay, Hannah and I, real quick, we were just gonna say 10 things we wish we knew by 25, which is so great. That could have been the whole episode.
Let me get my notes.
Hannah's gonna go off the rip, and then I'm gonna just pick out whatever she didn't say.
Okay, I have 5 prepared. I have them on my notes out. They're locked and loaded. Okay,
type A, type B. I'll figure out when I get there.
Okay, I'm going to go rapid fire, but if I need to elaborate, then I will.
Love.
So first one, even the worst case isn't as bad as you think that it is. It's always survivable, asterisk, within reason.
That's good.
There probably are some things that are not survivable, like things that are lethal, So I'm putting the asterisk. But for me, there are 1,000 things that I thought the world was ending, the sky is falling, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me, and the sun rose the next day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that the worst case scenario in that given situation had to happen to teach me that it's not the end of the world. So there were a couple things like work-wise or, health-wise or just different things that I'm like, this cannot happen to me. Like, I hope this is the absolute worst case scenario. This cannot happen. I'm so afraid. God, please don't let this happen. And then it happens and it's bad, but then each day continues to come and then life goes on. And I think that taught me a huge thing. Like, no matter what feels like the sky is falling, it typically is not. So you just take it as it comes.
That's so good.
It's
no
just
notes.
The next thing you're figuring out. Okay. Second one, you have to listen to God as much as you talk to God. Because I'm really bad about,
That's a bar.
I'll be journaling. I'll be, giving God all my requests, all my prayers, all my thoughts, and like, here's what I want you to do. And then I put my pen away and I shut the notebook and I leave. So I give God no time to rebuttal, no time to speak to me, no time to do anything. And that's one thing I've really been trying to learn. This probably I learned after 25.
That's okay.
It's been pretty recent, but I feel like I was like, oh no, I spent time with the Lord this morning. I did this. And then if I think back to how I spent the time, it was just me writing down things that I wanted God to do. Like, it was just prayer requests basically.
Yeah.
But it was not actually communing with God and listening. Notes.
That's
Anything?
good. No, none.
Okay.
Chef's kiss.
Next, don't try and be pretty like her. Be pretty like you. And that is definitely like a Tumblrism. It's a thing that was really popular back in the day. But I feel like I spent so much time looking at other girls and being like, oh my gosh, well, she has like the longest, most beautiful blonde hair and she's got super long legs and she's so pretty and her eyes are so blue and this girl's so tall and this girl, like all these different things, and comparing myself to them and thinking like, well, what makes them beautiful and why don't I have that? And like, what makes them special and it's lacking on me. And as I've gotten older, I've really learned to embrace my own features. Yeah. Though they change all the time because I always am doing something.
But they're yours, so you can
change
them.
But then just like learning different things, like what flatters my body type, what flatters green eyes, what makes me feel confident, what looks good on a 5'3" frame, like figuring out what makes me pretty like me,
Yeah.
not pretty like anyone else. Like you and I think that you're so beautiful. We look nothing alike, you know? And I hope that I'm beautiful in my own way. So that's the hard thing is that as girls, we're always like pitted against each other and we're always comparing, and it can be so hard because I'm surrounded by so many beautiful people in my life that it's obviously difficult to look.
It is hard,
around and just see so many pretty faces that look nothing like me. But at the same time, learning to recognize like you will never be pretty like that other girl, but you are the only one that can be pretty like you.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's really good.
Okay, next, who cares what other people think of you? What do you think of you?
It's good. I'm taking all of them.
Yeah. No, it's the same. It's the same thing pretty much.
No,
it's like,
so good.
I feel like in every aspect, like I want to be somebody that I'm proud of. I want to have an Instagram page that I would want to follow. I want to have a career that I would look up to. I want to have a legacy of kindness and friendship and all these things that I would admire in someone else. Like it doesn't matter what other people think of me or perceive me as. What do I think of me? What does God think of me? Those are really the only two. Like God, my mom, and myself. Those are pretty much the only ones.
We're so the same.
But it's just difficult because I think we do want the approval of other people. It's like a human desire. But just, what do you think of you?
Yeah.
Are you cool with yourself? That's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, we already talked about this actually.
Love.
But every season and life stage has something that you're going to miss. The key to appreciating life is learning to recognize those things before the stage ends. So there's so
You're
many...
so inquisitive.
Thank you. Well, this one is inspired by a quote in The Office where at the very end of The Office, Andy Bernard's like, I wish there was a way to know that you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. And I know.
We are in the good old days right now.
I know, but it's true. And there's so many different stages, like even high school, even if I was in college and broke and living alone and depressed, like even all these different stages that I've had where in the moment I was not like thrilled. I wasn't live, laugh, loving. But looking back on them, there are different times, like the last time that I got to live in the house with my brother before we both grew up, or the apartment that I had whenever I was in college, or the coworkers that I worked at this job that I thought that I hated, but I actually love my coworkers. And now, even if I'm in a waiting season and I'm praying for God to change our lives, there are so many aspects of this stage of my life that I'm going to miss so badly. Like just the regulars at the coffee shop that I go to all the time, and the friends that I have that live close, and my parents, and just so many different things. The relationship that Austin and I have, because we don't have any kids, so we spend so much time together and we can do whatever we want. There are so many things that I will be nostalgic for when this season ends. So I don't want to wait until the season ends to appreciate them.
Yeah, that's so good, Hannah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That concludes all my wisdom. Thank you.
That's so good. Okay, I'm going to go fast with it.
Okay.
One, I feel like you can reinvent your life / God can change it at any time, at any age. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can be going through, you could be in your 40s and be like, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to start doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I just think, especially what God's done in my life the past year, it's like just because you've done something for so long doesn't mean you have to continue doing it. Like you can truly change and allow God to move in you in that way. Number 2, I've been listening to Mel Robbins a lot, which is like, I don't even know. She's like a Christian girly swirly, but there are some really good truths that, people say. And one is, talk about like how food is medicine, sleep is medicine, like all those kinds of things. Absolutely. And being so intentional is my number 2, whether it's like time with your friends. And for me, it's really big on like how I sleep at night, like on my back, on my side, like what I'm eating throughout the day, how much water I'm drinking, like all of that, because we only have so much time and our bodies are honestly a gift from God. And so it's just like, take care of it, like take care of yourself. And even like looking into chemicals and stuff. I don't know. I'm really on this I'm trying to get on like a natural, like de-chemical by my house and stuff. But 3 is kind of going with the intentional thing, but busyness, don't let that steal your joy or all of your time in your relationships. Hannah and I have had deep chats where I am very career driven. Like I love all that stuff, but also it's like, I am still 25. I want to have fun. I don't want to lose like, I don't know, my inner child, like all of that, and I don't have to. I don't think you have to lose that at any age, but, don't let your work or whatever it is be your everything. Like I loved when you said your world's not going to end. Every single fear you have could happen and life's still going to be okay. Like it's still going to be okay. And sometimes you just have to go through it and then you'll get out the other side, like exactly what you said. But don't let the things become more important than your relationships, whether it's with God and with other people. Honestly, I don't really have that many more.
No, those are so good.
Before 25, I don't know. I always say, like, book the trip. I don't care what people say. I'm like, you're young. Go zip line in Hawaii while you can when you're young. Retirement, you might still be able to, but you don't know for sure. So I'm really so bad. And I think exactly what Hannah said too. Don't settle for anything in life. That's my thing is relationships, friendships, jobs. You know, sometimes when we settle, we learn a lot, and it's like these painful periods that we have to go through because even when we were talking about earlier, like, well, why didn't I, if I didn't do this? But I'm like, God also, like, I went through so many different friendships that I don't currently have right now, but it was needed in that season.
Right.
You know, and it's just, we have to go through those things sometimes to be in certain relationships with certain people at certain times.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think, don't settle for anything in life. Like, if God has this plan for you, just keep pursuing it, because that's the most fulfilling life, and what He knows better than what we could. So
Absolutely.
I think that concludes it. Is that 5? I don't even count.
Well, it's so much wisdom regardless. It was
Oh
fine.
my gosh. I was like, I really don't
It was 5. It was 5.
Get the tattoo also. But get the tattoo. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the pod. I love you guys so much.
Thank
the
you for
t-shirt,
having me.
of course. Yes, Hannah, thank you for coming on the podcast.
I'm so happy to
Hannah's
be
so
here.
locked in, you guys. I think I texted her just like a few days ago.
Yeah,
and
so whatever, girl.
She is just at thebomb.com. I love you.
I'll talk anytime, anywhere, especially with you.
Period. Well, same. Double it.
Aw.
Yes, but the new merch should be on the website this weekend. We love you guys so much. I can't speak for Hannah. I mean, she said that her DMs are open for prayer.
They are, always.
Same. We love y'all. We love Springfield, and I am planning on creating more creative events with worship. So if you're a coffee shop in town, you're a business in town, you have space, and you're like, we want to collab with you, Morgan, Hannah, the podcast, whatever it is, hit me up, because we're ready to rock. So we love you guys. Men and women, trust in God. We believe in everything for you.
Treat yourself on Friday.
Treat yourself Friday. Listen to Hannah's podcast, and don't settle for anything in life. Honestly, trust God and live, laugh, love. Hannah, plug yourself.
That's it. Follow me at Hannah McClelland, spelled like it sounds, kind of, and listen to our Non-Toxic podcast. If not, just stay keeping up with cash.
That's right.
Place to be.
Vibes, March Madness, even though this is not, but they're both so late.
Okay, yeah. I probably won't be watching a single game, but I support it.
Period.
My husband will.
Yes.
So it'll be on my house.
Basketball season.
Yay.
I will be meeting Mellow Ball next weekend. Okay.
Yes.
Just gonna speak it out loud.
Yes.
Vibes. But yes, love you guys so much. Subscribe, listen to the pod, buy merch, and yodel. Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye.